Good morning, everybody. Gonna do a little Q&A today, and today we've got a Q from John Doe. So anonymous, but it's a good question, and it's about what do you do when you feel inferior to others? Dear Father Muir, I always feel inferior to others as I am not sporty, nor tall, and handsome. How can I become more confident? Please reply through a Catholic Breakfast video. Well, John Doe, I'm happy to do so. Here's the way I want to answer your question. Live like a hobbit, or learn from the hobbits. You may know that I'm a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. Here's what I mean. I'll just make 2 points about that. So sometimes we look at our lives and we compare ourselves to others and feel like we're just not good enough. Other people seem more athletic. Maybe they seem taller, maybe more physically attractive or whatever. Look at the hobbits, right? So the hobbits are such great characters because they are physically short. They're not powerful like the race of men. They're not rich like the race of the dwarves, etc. But the hobbits are happy creatures. Well, why? I think it's because on one level, they simply enjoy and are grateful for what they do have. So it's a good little psychological move. It's also a good spiritual move. Instead of looking at what you don't have, you look at what you do have. I always think of this scene where Frodo, at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Rings, Frodo's out there just sort of walking around the Shire, and he goes up on this beautiful hill and he's like smoking his Shire weed or whatever. So the point is, the hobbits know how to appreciate what they do have. One of my spiritual heroes, you probably know this if you watched other videos before, is Saint Therese of Lisieux. Her kind of spiritual approach to life was live like a flower. So in her mind, she would imagine, is a lily worried that it's not a rose or a tulip? She said, no, the lily receives all of the light of the sun as if it's the only flower in the garden. That's kind of what the hobbits do, right? The hobbits don't stress out that they're not as tall as men or as rich as dwarves, but they appreciate what they do have. I think, in our lives, we can do that in all sorts of ways. Read books. You find out you identify what are your interests, what are your gifts and skills. And don't worry so much if they're not what you perceive as equal to others. I mean, from a certain perspective, who cares? Who cares if your interests are different than others or you don't perceive them as much as others? That doesn't take away your ability to enjoy them. Here's the second point I think the hobbits can teach us when we feel inferior to others. When Gandalf comes to Frodo and tells him about this great mission involving the Ring of Power, etc. Finally, what I think fights off that nagging sense of inferiority in us is a sense of purpose in our lives, a sense of mission, a sense of adventure. That's what Frodo gets. He's pulled out of the comfort of the Shire into this place of sort of dangerous service. He's doing this great service for the dwarves and for the race of men. In fact, all of Middle-earth, Frodo is doing this great act of love. So I realize that may be kind of harder than just simply enjoying life around you, but finally I think what we're made for is to live great lives of great love, not simply to kind of enjoy the world around us, but to lay our lives down in service of other people. So, ask yourself, who in your life right now needs to be served? What are situations in your community or in the world around you that you can make a contribution in? On the highest level, are you called to marriage? Are you called to the priesthood? Are you called to religious life? Are you called to some other act of heroic service? You see what this is going to do? It gets your focus off of what are other people doing, and it gets it on what can I do? What's the service of love that I can provide to others? And here's the paradox of the whole thing. And then there's a kind of superiority over the people you serve, not because you're quote-unquote better than them or taller than them or more athletic than them, but because you are giving something to them that they don't have, which is your love, your service, the gift of your very lives. So thanks for the question. Keep them coming, and I'll say a prayer that God helps you live more like a hobbit. Thanks, John.